allow me to reintroduce myself. My name's Akil. Thank you. Thank you. I'm back. It's been about a year and a half since our last episode of Japan According to Akil. We have a lot to talk about. A lot has changed, and I'm back in business. Really happy to be with you guys. Um, People who've tuning in for the first time. This is season two. I'm calling it season two of my podcast that started it all. That's really started me on the track of creating content several years ago. I don't even know. I don't even want to think about how many years ago it was. But yeah, I'm really excited to be back with this handful of listeners who were here from the beginning with me and who encouraged me to make content for when I was blogging and on Instagram, like I don't know, almost like 8 9 years ago. But a lot has changed. A lot has stayed the same, but a lot has changed. So first, let me start off for the original listeners because at this point in time, I don't have a large audience at all. But yeah, pretty much for the people who've been here before, and for you new people, the podcast started with me just hanging out, having a few drinks at night, talking crazy about Japan, telling old stories, like really getting wild. I mean, not too wild, but just telling a bunch of stuff. If you go back and listen to some of the audio episodes, you'll hear some of it's kind of embarrassing for me to to go back and like listen to. I have to go back and listen to some of it so that I can get some notes. But yeah, this and so I've been in Japan since 2004. I've basically a full-time English teacher more or less since then. A lot of career changes, twists and turns, but that's pretty much been my main career path up until now. I think almost about 10 years ago, I went down the path of entrepreneurship, trying to start my own business here, do some, e-learning, created content for Japanese people. Just an update for you guys that I'm kind of moving on, transitioning away from that goal. I spent the past year and a half basically wanting to create a book for Japanese people related to ChatGPT and teaching them how to make business emails using ChatGPT. So I made the protocol for that. I spent like 6 8 months like working hard on it. Like this is it. I'm going to do it every day. And my mentor, the surfer mentor, he's a company president, Japanese guy, semi-retired surfer. He's been kind of guiding me along my path for the past like 7 years or so. And I was like, I'm ready to go, let's do it. And he looked at my stuff, and he had a long sit down with me. And like normally I'll tell you, like when you talk to Japanese people, if you live in Japan or you just moved to Japan, and if your Japanese skill isn't really up to the level what you think it is, and it's a professional Japanese person, and they're talking to you in English, and it's all ha 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 and light conversation, and you might like kind of brush the person's know-how off. Just remember that it's in their second language, and when they talk in their native language, just like me too, my personality changes quite a bit when I'm talking in Japanese versus when I'm talking in English. Man, my mentor tore into me like like nobody's business. He wasn't like abusive, but he was just like pointing out stuff. Like, what about this? What about this? Have you thought about this? What were you gonna do in this situation? This isn't the quality that you need. You want this result, right? If you want this result, then you're gonna need to do this, 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 and this. Right now, I got you. You're motivated about this, but this isn't enough. This isn't enough. This isn't enough. And he basically made me take a really hard look at the content that I was putting out, and for Japanese that I wanted to put out for foreign people, I think it would be good. We can kind of be like, okay, yeah, I get it, I get the gist of it, and take it and run with it. But basically, to put out, publish a book for sale, he was telling me like it needs to be a lot more. I need to be a lot more meticulous and a lot more detailed with the type of information I was going to give out. Not just like, okay, this is kind of how you do it. This is how you do it. All right, go at it. And with my first textbook that I released, I kind of had the same issue as well. So I took a long, hard think about it, and I was like, do I want to make a team? Do I want to do all this stuff? And I was like, not really. So I kind of, this was like fall, like late summer, so I'm going on almost a year ago. And I kind of was like, you know what? by this point I already taken a step back from the podcast. I wasn't putting out any content because I was just focusing on my career, the next stage, that book that I wanted to make. And then yeah, I started job hunting, because I was like, okay, I'm done with teaching. I want to spend some time with my kids and I want to do all these things. And I seriously started job hunting at the beginning of 2024. Interviewing, getting my Japanese resume together, lots of no's, lots of stuff, and the whole time, honestly, the whole time I was really thinking about this. I won't even call it a podcast anymore because I'm trying to move away from just strictly a podcast, but my content. And but there's so many things I wanted to do and share with you guys that I didn't have the chance to because I was really conflicted, and I was doing one big mistake that I read about that I'm not supposed to do, which was riding two horses to the finish line. On one hand, I was really trying to I was enjoying making content for people interested in Japan, English speakers or foreign people interested in Japan, but also at the same time I was focused on making content for Japanese people who want to learn English. And I mean, as I think about it now, like me making content this way is a lot less stressful than making content for Japanese people. I can just flow, with just be myself. I got if I'm making stuff for Japanese people, I was editing, then I got to do the subtitles, make sure the subtitles are good, find someone to proofread it, make sure it makes sense to Japanese people, the font and all those things. It just it, it wasn't. I mean, I know I could do the whole Akil Sensei thing, but that's not brand. But I've seen what it is, and that's not what would make me happy at all. That's not a game I'm trying to play at all. So, which now I'm basically confused. To be honest with you, I'm actually just trying to figure things out with content for you guys. Like I was like, I want to, I want to change jobs first, then get weekends off so I can spend more time with my family, and then in my free time, I can work on the content that I want to work on with you guys and spend time with my kids. But like I finally got to this stage. We'll talk about the interview process in future episodes. But I was going through the interview process and I got to the final interview with actually a couple of companies, but it just didn't work out. Like so one thing led to another. It just didn't work out, and for a couple of times when it was just like, oh, I got it, and everything felt right within me, my gut feeling like, yeah. And so I thought it was taking me somewhere. And the same thing happened a few weeks ago. And I'm just like, is there some reason this is happening? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. And so that's why I just jumped in the bath and I was like, maybe, yeah, maybe I should just start making content again for you guys and the content that I want to make, and give that about a month or 2 months. I said a month. I'm giving myself a month, and just to see if it gets traction or anything like that, and to see if that is a sign telling me I should go in this direction. Because honestly, the main thing I want to do, and my family, we talked about it, and my mother-in-law said the first thing she said was, well, when I told her I was considering doing that, she was like, well, yeah, just take a break, refresh, and see, because the first thing you said was you not like you want to work for a Japanese company, is you want weekends off. I work Saturdays and some Sundays. That's why I used to record on Sunday nights. But, my kids are getting older and I want to spend time with them on the weekends. My son's in elementary school. He's in second grade. He's a little man. He's wild. I mean, not wild, like in a bad way. He's a character, and I want to like be there for them much more. So, that's why I really was focused on that. So I don't know. Honestly, I'm just telling you, I don't know what I'm doing right now. I'm just recording it from you guys. And that's really brings me up to date. That's a quick, brief overview of what's going on for new listeners or new watchers, because this is also going on YouTube. You'll get up, go back and listen to old content if you can bear to watch it. It's kind of cringe for me, but yeah, I'm gonna try to both bring back old information and move things forward at the same time. So speaking of the show, for old listeners, you might realize I'm not cussing really. Like I'm gonna try and clean up my act as well. That's another thing too. Like just me saying whatever on here, it might have been fun as a hobby, but if I realistically want to make content, it needs to be, more appropriate for the platforms that it needs to be on. I mean, of course, I'm going to be me. I'm going to say what I want to say, but I think the podcast is the time and the place for me to do that. Just free flow and talk about whatever I want to talk about. But also, I'm going to try to be more appropriate, and because I'm also like I want to put out stuff that, like, the first few episodes of the podcast, I was just messing around, and I going back to, I was embarrassed about it at some point in time. If you remember, if you listen to the episodes, I apologize to you guys about it. I tried to be better about it, and I'm still gonna try and be better about that point. So that's another thing I'm really gonna work on as well. Um, Variety of content is gonna you're gonna if you go to my YouTube, whatever you're listening to this, if you'll notice, like, I've started on YouTube, started on TikTok, a separate TikTok account for Japan According to Akil. It's Japan According to Akil at TikTok. It's Japan According to Akil. I dropped the podcast because it's going to be a wider variety of content. Hopefully later on this week, I'll get my Facebook going up, and Instagram I'll do I'll bring along a little bit later. But yeah, so short form content, some longer content, some news, TV movie reviews, which is something I've been really dying to try. Which I did my first one. It'll be online by the time this comes out. Really excited about that. I'm gonna record another one. And so just building like a variety of content, not just the podcast. The podcast is just gonna be more free talk kind of stuff. But audio form and also video form, you'll notice there'll be a wider variety of content that I put out in a way that I want to put it out, that I think it'll be, I can give a fresh take to everything. So I'm really, really excited about that. I'm really enjoying it. It's only been a couple of days, but I'm really, really enjoying it. By the way, please let me know with a comment or anything, wherever what do you think of this new fresh take? What's going on? Of course, it helps the algorithm. If you comment, wherever platform you're watching this on, it really does help. So I appreciate that in advance. So that's the main things about that. One more thing about the show format. It's gonna be a lot more concise. You can kind of see the way I'm talking now. I got a plan. I've been planning stuff out. Just coming in, just grabbing the beer and then just talking crazy is fun, but it doesn't really move things forward. Also, like the time of day, you can notice like where I'm at. I'm in a different room, in a different setup. It's daytime. I think that will help me as well, put out more content. Now that my kids are my daughter's in daycare, my son's in elementary school, I have time during the day on some days of the week where I can just record something and get it out there to you guys. So I think all those things will help make the content cycle move forward and be a little bit more regular. So I'm really looking forward to all this stuff. Like, I've been having fun just searching for content, putting stuff out again. I've been really thinking about, talking to you guys, expressing stuff, and just putting stuff out into the space, because that's not the typical Japan related information, whether it's from Black people, not knocking anything that anyone's doing, whether it's from Black people, whether it's from, native Japanese people who can speak English, or where there's the touristy kind of stuff. I think my category doesn't really fit in to anyone, or the otaku stuff. It doesn't really fit anywhere. It's just me, and I think there's a space for this type of content, especially related to the niche of Japan, and that's what I want to share with you guys. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna see what happens. So that's that. So everything will be more concise, a little bit cleaner, hopefully a little bit more polished, and we'll get into it. The last thing, so now that's the update. So this episode, I want to give a transition into a couple of topics that have been going on in Japan, so you can kind of know what's happening nowadays. So first off, we got to talk about the tourists, right? Tourism in Japan is becoming an issue. It's becoming a thing, right? Now, during 2020 to 2024, or not 2024, 2020 to like 2022, 2023ish, Japan was closed for obvious reasons. And I'll tell you, when I was here, living here, of course, like I was telling Japanese people, y'all better, if y'all want to go to Kyoto, y'all need to go right now. This is like your last chance to really enjoy the purity of strictly Japanese Kyoto, because when things open back up, it's not going to belong to you anymore. It's over, right? Like I just watching the news right now, and I talk to Japanese people. I'm like, I remember going to Kyoto in 2006 before it was really popular to, visit Japan. I mean, there were tourists, but all the tourists were really mainly concentrated in Kinkakuji, which is the Golden Pavilion in Kyoto. That was where everyone was at. That's where everyone was holding. That's where all the tripods and, and the cameras were at. And I was there for a bit. I went twice. The first time I went with my girlfriend, who's my wife now, and we went to everywhere except for Kinkakuji. And of course, me being a tourist, I'm like, I want to go see Kinkakuji, but but we didn't go. And the second time, I went by myself, and with the sole purpose of going to Kinkakuji because I thought I was leaving Japan, which obviously didn't happen. And so yeah, but now apparently I haven't been there, and I'm like, I can imagine what it's like. I'm like, I ain't trying to go there right now because it's just completely flooded with tourists and over tourism. I'll just talk about it from the Japan side. I'm sure in the information you read, you probably read or seen, you probably heard people talk about Kyoto in, what's there, places to go, stuff like that. So I'm not going to cover that. I'm just going to say from the Japan side, over tourism, I've been hearing a lot of information about that. Over tourism is a thing, just because like the on a topic we're going to talk about right after this, it's so easy for foreign people to come into Japan right now to visit that there are just floods of people coming in to, especially Kyoto. I mean, even Tokyo, Shibuya looks completely different. I went there a few months ago. I was like, what? I mean, on the news, I read a statistic that like 60% of the people at Sentogai, which is the main scramble intersection that you've seen, are tourists nowadays, which is crazy, crazy to me. Because I mean, I used to hang out there like a couple times a week when in my 20s, but now I'm a married middle-aged dad. Like I'm not going to Shibuya, but but yeah. So times are changing, and because of that, like Japanese municipalities and governments are really struggling to deal with that because it takes more resources for them to be able to deal with the amount of tourists, trash. You got to think about it. Trash pickup, the transportation system, signs and things like that. Staffing just to handle the influx of people at different sites and things like that. Buses, all those things. In a lot of these places, like Kyoto, for example, it's just a small town. Like, it's a small, not rural town, but it's like a small traditional town. And so if you just like, I don't know, I'm just throwing a number, like, quadruple the amount of people flowing into the city, like it's gonna be some issues that they got to deal with. And so now, like, the concept of over tourism is a thing that they're really dealing with. And so there are some proposals that are floating, taxing um tourists. They're trying to find out what's the best way to do it. And I'm just telling you, being in Japan, once it gets to the point where we're talking about it and one person openly says we're gonna do it, then it's just like a set of dominoes. It's going to happen like everywhere, right? And that's just the way it's going to be. So if you're a tourist coming in, I mean, for you, it's not really going to be a big issue, like, because you're coming to Japan, like, you don't care, like, okay, a couple extra dollars, like, whatever, or a couple extra yen, like, fine, here, take it, but I do know and think, like, some of the local people will be like, what is this? This is an outrage. It's I don't know, discrimination against foreign people, but I get it. I get it. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, you raise taxes on the everyday citizens so that, like, they can pay for the tourists coming in who are running amok. Like, it doesn't really work like that, So yeah, I hope they find something that works out well. I don't really have too much confidence in the Japanese government to really manage this type of situation well, but yeah, we're going to talk about tourism a lot because there's a whole lot of issues related to tourism. We just don't have time to get into it right now. This is just a warm-up episode. But definitely, when you come in here in the near future, you might notice that prices are different. Restaurants as well, menus are different, things like that. depending on the situation, don't throw a hissy fit if you can, if you can help it, right? And just please understand that for the most part, you know, I've seen and I've heard like on TV, on the news, like some of my students, it is a big thing that Japanese people are struggling with. They want to be welcoming of foreign tourists coming in, but also it's more like, whoa, what do we do? Whoa, like, whoa, what are we doing here? Like, so, and they don't really know how to handle it when it gets to that point. So just be a bit understanding of that. And I think everything will be better for everyone. Okay. All right. So one more topic and then I'm going to get out of here. So, the weak Japanese yen, right? We got to talk about the weak Japanese yen. It's kind of a big deal, right? Like in the past, since year and a half since I talked to you, I think I put out one video about it, but the yen basically in the past year and a half has gone from like 110 ish to like 157 where it is right now versus the US dollar, which is a big deal. Like, I remember like 15 years ago, the yen used to be considered the strong currency, and it was like 80 something, 82 to the US dollar was like the strongest it got one time. And I went back to America, and it was just great. I was buying sneakers, I was buying t-shirts. It was amazing. I was just balling like, hey, take all this, but but now it's the complete reverse. Like, you know, buying imported goods sucks right now because everything's valued in denominated in dollars, and which also means that for tourists coming in, they're like, "Yay, we can get all these Japanese goodies and services for on the low, and that's also has contributed to the influx of tourism because there's no tipping. One, there's no tipping here. Two, service is top flight in Japan, so it's like, I don't have to tip. I'm getting basically like a 40% discount on everything domestically. The food, you got like Michelin restaurants all over the place, right? You got goodies and clothes and anime and whatever you want, like is right at your fingertips. You could just like dabble in whatever you want to dabble in. It's amazing. And you don't have to worry about anything. So, yeah, but for Japanese people and me, I feel it. I feel it a lot. That's also been one of the things. Not gonna lie, one of the things where I was thinking about, well, okay, career change. What am I doing for the future? Because let me put on my Nostradamus hat a little bit. You heard me say like, you might have heard me if you heard me in the past say my worst case scenario for this situation. I did a breakdown of it like I think a year and a half ago was 200 to the US dollar, 200 yen to the US dollar. Since the events that have been happening in recently, I've had to change it to like 250. Like, I'm not saying it's gonna happen. Jeff, my friend, if you're a long time listener, he was been messing with me like, oh, you said 200. Oh, it's not 200 yet, but I told him like 250 this is my worst case scenario. Like, mentally, I'm preparing myself if this happens, just so that I don't go crazy and lose my mind. So I could just like, okay, this is a possibility in the realm of possibility. So, yeah, for a lot of different reasons, which we can get into in another episode, that's where my worst case scenario for the exchange rate is. But again, if you're coming into Japan, you'll be like, fantastic. Everything would be even cheaper. But for people living here, or for someone like me, my daughter's getting older. Her hair management. My wife is doing her hair now, so I'm responsible for getting all the moisturizers and the shea butters and the cocoa spray and all that good stuff. And it hurts my pockets to like buy this stuff every month because my wife is like, we need more detangler, coconut spray, and I'm like, yeah, can you use half a pump? Don't just pump it like full, because I just go crazy when I see her like all over the place. I'm like, half a pump does the job, baby. Like, it's got to last. Like, the price has gone up like 40% in the past 6 months. Come on now. so yeah, like that's kind of what it is. But okay, let's wrap things up there. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for stopping in for the first time or coming back. I'm really happy to be back with you guys. I'm gonna do my best to make sure I put out good quality content. Please like, subscribe, check again TikTok, YouTube for now. When more stuff comes online, I'll let you know. And we back, baby. Holla at you next time. Peace.